Morning. We're going to pick up on Africa again today, and the world has a lot involved here. Let's start off with saying what the world most wants from Africa, and unfortunately, it's Africa's resources, which sounds fine. The world will be buying its resources, sending money. It'll give the economy there a boost and they can take off. Unfortunately, it doesn't work well that way. The history of nations that are very rich in resources is not good. They very often are mismanaged terribly. It tends to facilitate corruption, sometimes huge. It tends to keep dictators in power, hinders the development of democracy, and also alters the normal economic and technological development of that country. Not good. There's an occasional exception. You have Norway, which is the richest country per capita in the world, and they have a fine government, a fine democracy, fine social services, equality. Everything works, and the money that they get in from the North Sea is put into a fund for future use. It simply isn't touched, and the economy works on everything else. So that's ideal. It's rare. Mostly you get countries with very dictatorial, very rich people at the top, and a huge amount of diversion into people who are close to the government. So what can the rest of the world do? Not an awful lot, to the extent that we can try to sign contracts that provide that the source for the materials is appropriate and help trying to get it sent to the right place. Not much that we can do. Countries like China that are coming in and pretty much sending in all their nationals, doing all the necessary work for mining and so on, and just basically put the local populace aside, can just do the usual thing of at least employing people who live there and try to give them decent working conditions and some decent wages. And considering how much they are taking out and will take out, and just a natural need to maintain good relations to the people that you're working with, getting the resources from, it really would be in their benefit to start thinking more constructively that way. And this goes for anybody else getting resources out of Africa. Now, what do we need from Africa? Well, one thing we need is very straightforward. It's a preservation of the rainforests, which are not only a treasure of seeds, of biological diversity, but also take a lot of carbon dioxide out of the air. So if these are cut down, if they're used for other things, it really hits the world tremendously, and it hits it as far as greenhouse gases and really the whole equilibrium of the world. What can we do? This is tricky. There are rainforests in multiple locations, some in places like Cameroon, where the government is reasonably stable, others in the Congo, which doesn't even have an appropriate government. So it's hard to figure out what to do. I'd recommend a sort of a creative, holistic approach. The biggest problem is that any money that you give to a state to help preserve the forest tends to be diverted into corrupt activity. The country, the individuals never see any of it. So I'd like to propose that we use one of America's bad habits and make it work. What I'd like to do would be that money from carbon taxes and any other source of money that's appropriate, plus simple contribution by NGOs and by governments that we really hire the forests from the people. And I would use a very innovative approach. The money should go directly to the individuals. It should not go to the government. And I would propose a national lottery. These are popular all over. And from a practical standpoint, you usually get a big bang for the buck. People are really enthused. So I would simply say that in any country where we want to rent the rainforest, we set up national lottery. It goes just to adults. Everybody has a identification. They get it. It goes directly to them, and they can talk with everybody they know. Everybody will have a relative or some friend who will make money, will give some excitement to it, and it gives the people of the country a vested interest in preserving those forests. Then those rainforests will have to be protected, and they should simply be protected by appropriate, well-trained, and well-paid people who have a investment in it as if they were like our national rangers, to protect it and to keep roads from being built into it and keep logging away and keep the poachers who tend to really go after local life, what we call bush meat in the Congo, and really devastate it. And this is straightforward. And if we have a country where the people feel an emotional interest in it, they'll do it and they'll feel happy about it, and it will not be a corrupt thing. And the money that they are given should be backed or in a reserve currency, such as the dollar or the pound. So this is a way to get the people involved in it. The other areas that we really need to work on is population, which of course is an issue all over the world, but it's a particular issue in Africa, and we'll get to that on the next session. See you at the next session.